Hello, in this tutorial I will give you a first impression about AppInventor, how it looks inside, and what are the main components of AppInventor. AppInventor is a web platform. In this web platform we can create apps only for Android devices. To start to create apps, you need to go to this website appinventor.mit.edu/explorer. This is let's say the main site of AppInventor. Here you have lots of information of AppInventor, resources that you can explore to go further in your knowledge related to AppInventor. We'll start to explore AppInventor by clicking here in this button, say create apps. When you click here, you need to log in with a Gmail account. We'll use this account. Okay, just start, and there we are in the AppInventor. This first window, it will just tell you if you have an Android device or not, because if you have an Android devices, you can test your apps in the moment just by reading a QR code, or if you don't have an Android device, you need to set up and run an Android emulator. When you enter here in AppInventor, you have these different components. As you can see here, I will just start a new project. To start with the blank, we will call it iTuning. Okay, and there we are. As you can see here we have the palette where you have all the components that you can use in your application. For example, if I want a button, I just have to click, drag and drop the button on my app. When you put a component on your screen, you can see here that this component appears here in the components space. So here we have the screen, and here we have a button. In the right side, we have the properties for each component that we put on the screen. So here we have the properties for the screen. If I click here, we have the properties for the button. For example, I can change the background color, let's say to green. Okay, and for example, I want the font to be bold, and I even can change the text. For example, click me. Okay, so this is the way that we work in creating our apps. We have the user interface, as you can see. We have other components for the layout, for the media. For example, if I want to play a sound, if I want to open the camera, if I want to record a sound. Okay, we have for drawing and animation, we have the canvas. If I want to work with the sensors, okay, I have the location sensor. I have a barcode sensor. For the social, I have testing, phone calls, Twitter, and so on. Even for those that want to build an app to interact with the Lego Mindstorms, I also have here some components that allow me to develop an app to work with the Lego Mindstorm. So let's just add another component for you to see how we work with him here on the screen. So let's put the text box. Okay, as you can see here, if I click the button, I have the properties of the button. If I click the text box, as you can see, I have all the properties of the text box. So let's, for example, let's say add some text as an information. for this component, as you can see here, I have the button. Here I have the text box, and we can add more screens in our app. Let's say, for example, that you are building a quiz, and you have let's say a quiz with 5, 6 different questions. So I can come here, as you can see, I add another screen. I can call this question 1. Okay. As you add another screen, you see here that I have the options to remove it, and I also have the options to change between screens. So for example, let's say that in this screen I call it question 1. I want to add a text box. Okay, I can come here, what's the name of the first president of USA, for example. Okay, so what we need to do here is to change the height or the width. Okay, I just have field parent. Okay, let's say field parent, because the text box is in this device will automatically has the same size, the same width as the screen. Okay, so let's go back to screen 1. So here in this interface, we just build the interface of the hub. As you can see, once again, we have the palette with all the components that I can add to my screens. You have the viewer, is where I am adding the components. Here I have the components box, where I can change it. And here I have the properties for each of the components. Okay, so in this part, we are building our interface. As you know, when we are creating applications, softwares, we need to program. Program what? To program the components that we are adding to the screens. So as you can see here, we have another option, it's called blocks. So we have the designer, now we are in design mode, and here we have blocks. Is in this space where we create the code, but we don't have the necessity to write code, because all the code is doing with blocks, so it's more intuitive what we can do and the way that we're creating the apps. Just give you just a small example. For let's say that when we click the button, I want to change what appears in the text box. Okay, so if I click here in button, as you can see, I have these different, let's say, events and different properties I can change in this particular component. Because if I click text box, I have other options, and of course I have other, let's say, programming blocks. These are the built-in, let's say, for control. We'll talk about this later. Okay, loops and conditional statements, for logic, for math, text, to work with lists, to work with colors, to work with variables, and even, let's say, a little bit more advanced to work with procedures. But let's just focus on these two components. So if I click button, I want something to happen when I click on button 1. Okay, so I will pick up this and say, when button 1 is clicked, do something. And what I want to do, I want to go to text box, and I want to set the text box text to something. Okay, as you can see here, I have this option, change the text of the text box. So I just pick up and put here. Okay, so when button 1 is clicked, do something. What I want to do, I want to set the text box text, this component, this property, to something different. So I want to change the text. So I go to text. Okay, and I'm going to choose this one, and you see that this will feel just right. Okay, the text string. I just want to change to another thing, something between is really fun. Okay, so once again, in the designer, I am building the interface of my app. Okay, with that, with the components, and change the properties of the components. When I go to blocks, I'm programming. Okay, and this is the way that we will do it during this learning event when you are building your apps. Design, first we have to think about the interface, what will be the components that I will need to my app, depending on my app I want to do. And after that, I will need to program that components. And this is a first impression, a first view of our AppInventor. During the learning event, we'll be back here to do different things and of course to create some funny apps.